Good to have you here. Heather Harris from Harris & Harris stopping by this morning. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks for having me again.
Good to have you here. And can you turn your mic up a little bit? Yeah, a little bit. Thank you very much. We have to adjust it. Is the porridge hot or cold? I don't know. We do it.
Gotta find that Goldilocks zone.
Yeah, exactly. Good to have you here. All right, so let's talk about this, which is 245. I had Sandy Heverly joining me to talk about this, and she's from Stop DUI. And this basically is a leaving the scene bill. Tell us about it and why we should get it passed.
Well, it's actually really important. It's something that if I didn't practice law in the area that I do, which is representing injured people, I wouldn't think would have a realization of how many hit and runs there actually are. Right now, the way the law exists, people who have committed an offense of drinking and driving or doing something that they shouldn't be doing and they hit someone feel like they want to take the chance to leave the scene instead of getting caught, because they know the penalties right now for getting caught for a felony DUI, for example, if like the bus stop accident we discussed a couple weeks ago. If they leave the scene and they don't get caught, then, or if they get caught later, they're less likely to have a significant penalty because the police can't arrest them for felony DUI if they don't have the evidence. What this law does is makes the penalty for a hit and run, basically leaving the scene of an accident for any reason, the same as if it were felony DUI.
All right, and some people say that's unfair because then you're convicting someone of a felony DUI basically without having been able to test them to see whether or not they were inebriated or not.
Actually, you're not being convicted of a felony DUI. You're being convicted of leaving the scene of an accident. The penalties would be the same.
Okay.
You're not convicted of a felony DUI necessarily, but the penalties are the same. You have the same prison limits. You have the prosecuting attorney cannot dismiss the charges because they're negotiating a plea. It basically just really tightens that up, because right now, if you have someone that's interested in committing a crime, or whether they are or not, maybe they're just a person who doesn't care. They go out, they get loaded on whatever it is, decide to drive around, run over someone in a crosswalk. At this point, they're not going, oh, gee, I'm going to become a reformed good citizen and stop and give aid and help and make sure that I do what's right. Mm-hmm. Right now, they're going, oh, no, I'm in trouble. Mm-hmm. And instead of sticking around and getting in more trouble, I'm going to leave and see if they can catch me. A lot of times the police are able to catch these people, but then once they've managed to track them down, the penalties are so insignificant compared to what they would be. The people have no interest in actually staying. So
as it exists now, there is like a hole in the system.
Yes.
Really, because if you are inebriated and you stay, then and they measure your alcohol level. Let's say it's alcohol, and you're drunk, you get a DUI automatically. And it enhances whatever it is for the person that's hit, or whatever the case is. But if you leave and your alcohol level goes down and they eventually get you and now you're sobered up,
right?
Then it's like, okay, I hit him and I left. I'm sorry I did, but I got scared and all that, but I wasn't drunk and you can't prove it, and that's the way it goes. And they get away with basically drunk driving and hitting someone. This way, what you're saying is if you do leave the scene of an accident and you're found guilty of committing that crime, doing the accident itself, you have to be guilty of that, right?
That's correct. You have to be shown to have caused the accident.
Right.
It has to cause bodily injury.
Right, and then you left.
Yes.
And you left, then you can also, in addition, it enhances it. You also now can be convicted of leaving the scene of a crime. So you may say, well, I wasn't drunk, but you know what? You left the scene of a crime, and you're going to pay the same time as you would have had you been drunk.
That's correct. That's what this does.
So you stick around. So if you're sober and you hit someone, you stick around, then it's just a matter of there are people who do hit people in not in crosswalks, but in pedestrians all the time. I was talking to the sheriff yesterday, and unfortunately, nearly half the deaths in the valley are due to pedestrian deaths, and about 49%, I think it was. And the result of that, a lot of people do stick around. It's not my fault. I'm not drunk. This guy just came out. He was dressed dark, and I hit him, and I'm sticking around. And so I'm not going to get charged with anything because it's not my fault, and I'm not drunk or stoned or anything like that. So,
correct.
So stick around. If you leave, you are implying your guilt. Basically,
you can't hit someone with your car, whether it be another car, whether it be someone on a bike, a motorcycle, a pedestrian, whomever. You can't hit someone and then leave the scene of the accident. Right now, for those who are already breaking the law, perhaps, and, drinking and driving under the influence of other drugs, they are under the impression that it might work out better for them if they just go.
They skedaddle out there. If you disagree, by the way, 257-5396, 257-KWN, we'll let you weigh in a little bit if you disagree with what Heather Harris is saying. And I'm sure there'll be someone who will disagree on it, but we'll find out what your thoughts are in this. 257-KWN, 257-5396. We'll come on back with Heather Harris in just a moment. Joining me in studio right now is Heather Harris with Harris & Harris, and talking about SB 245, fleeing from an accident. If you do, and you are convicted, you can get 2 to 20. Now, if you're not convicted, let me ask you this real quickly before I get an opposition here, because I know I'm going to get an opposition from somewhere. But real quick, if you, if they say you did an accident, and so they're going to enhance the charges by saying you fleed also, so now there could be an additional 2 to 20 if you're convicted. What if you're not convicted of the accident at all?
Well, if you're not convicted of the accident, then you don't have
there's no enhancement.
Anything. No, there's nothing.
So the whole thing goes away.
Yes.
So if you're convicted of the accident, you did the accident, we can prove it, we've got it video, we've got witnesses or whatever, and you turn around and you left, and now you're being convicted of the accident, someone got harmed, someone got hurt, someone died, or whatever the case is, and you skedaddled out of there, now you're also going to be convicted of it's a mandatory to find somebody guilty then of that?
Well, you still have to find them guilty. Obviously, you still have to go through the process. But if they are found guilty, there's mandatory prison sentences.
Ah, lovely.
Yes, and fines. And the prosecutor can't dismiss things because he feels like negotiating something else.
Yes, I like it.
Yes, there's actually, it makes it as stiff of a penalty as if you were caught behind the wheel in front of the person you ran over, having, had 10 beers beforehand. It basically makes it that stiff. So
the only thing I disagree with is this 2 to 20 bit. It should have been 20 straight, with no chance of mitigation on that one straight. Oh no, I know. I get looks from people around here, but I'm telling you, this is, I'm
there's always
I'm a hard ass on this stuff. This is, you cause an accident. I mean, what do you want me to feel? Sympathy for you? Somebody got hurt or killed. I don't feel sorry for you. How about the person who got killed? I keep thinking about the grandmother and her granddaughter.
And the family left behind.
And the guy got out of there, and he was on pot, and he was on methamphetamines, for crying out loud.
Thank goodness for Good Samaritans who actually saw the accident, witnessed it, followed him because they saw he wasn't going to stop, and showed police where he lived. If it weren't for them, I mean, where would we be on this?
And he's saying, by the way, I didn't know, I didn't intentionally hit him, or I didn't know I hit him, or something. I don't know what he was saying.
He claimed that someone cut him off, but no witness has seen any evidence of that. It seems like he maybe imagined it in his meth-induced state.
I would cut his freedom off and put him in prison for the rest of his natural life without the possibility of parole, and that's because I'm a nice guy. 257-5396, 257-KDWN. If you disagree, love to hear from you. Go ahead. I'll let you disagree.
Well, my concern, Alan,
Tina,
is you're penalizing somebody for maybe making a first-time mistake. It could be a teenager who something happened or whatever. I mean, you have murderers that leave the scene of a crime, and they're going to get less of a penalty.
All right, what about that, Heather? A teenager, the first time, this is just a mistake. Can't we all just get along and let this go?
Well, I would say that if you are old enough to be given a license and have the privilege of driving, that you have to live by the rules. And if you can't do that and you're going to make bad decisions, it's unfortunate, but you're going to pay the price. And you have to think about what's fair to the rest of the public. Should the rest of the public just say, "Oh gosh, we're sorry, we're going to give you a wide berth, Mr. 17-year-old who decides to drink even though you're of not legal age to do so, and go run over a preschooler. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to side with the preschooler and the family of that preschooler who's been, left devastated. I see this all the time where people are, oh, gee, I'm sorry, I was young and I'm really a good kid and, whatever. I realize people make mistakes. But sometimes you've got to pay the price for the mistakes you make.
My
and
kid
I
who
don't
got hit
think
in the car wash, the crosswalk rather, was a good kid too.
Yes, exactly. And, minding their own business, going about their life, being a good citizen, not harming other people. So if you make bad decisions, you better be able to live with the consequence.
Well, let's say you have somebody like with that Toyota when they have the problem with the brakes and all that stuff, and somebody does it and they freak out because they've never been in an accident before, and they just, they take off, they don't know. So because of a manufacturer defect, they're going to get 2 to 20 years for that may not even be necessarily the result of their actions. They're not drunk or on drugs or anything like that.
But it's not a result. Okay, I'm going to let Heather do it. But it's not a result of the manufacturer defect. It's a matter of the actions that you initiated after the accident. You can try to sue the manufacturer for defects in the brakes or the whatever that happens to be. But you leaving the scene had nothing to do with the salesman down at the showroom. Heather?
I agree with you there, Alan. I mean, really, there is a situation, I guess, that we can all imagine where someone says, oh, I was sneezing uncontrollably and I didn't see and I'm sorry and I got scared
and
I
to
left.
the side of the road.
Just pull over. Yeah, pull over. And you know what? You cause injury to someone. You don't just say, oh, my first instinct is I'm going to take off and go.
See, that's the point right there.
Yes.
See, that is the thing right there. You make a mistake, you're sneezing. You're not drunk, you're not stoned, there's no defective brakes, you're sneezing, and it happens. Okay, bummer. I mean, you didn't do it intentionally. I'm sure a jury may be very sympathetic if it goes to a jury trial. The judge will understand, and they'll kind of mitigate it and play it down. But the bottom line is, did you stay? You did, because I didn't want to do anything wrong. I didn't try to. I didn't initiate it purposefully. Okay, but if I take off,
it's the taking off that causes the penalty.
Yes.
If you cause an accident and it's inadvertent, and honestly, stuff happens and it's unfortunate, but it does. And sometimes it's someone's fault, sometimes it's not their fault. But you stay. And you give reasonable aid to people, and you make sure that you're doing what you can to try to mitigate things.
I think that's called. Let me think. I think that's called being a good citizen.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, a good citizen in this day and age. I know it's a rarity, but it does happen occasionally.
Well, and consider that this law, if you think about that, and you've got the point there, isn't particularly aimed at good citizens. Good citizens are going to stay. They are going to stop their car and say, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to do that.
Right,
I'm so sorry. What can I do? Call 911, do all of the things that you need to do. This is aimed at those who are already breaking the law and are going, oh no, I'm going to get in big trouble. I'm going to leave and go hide out at my friend's apartment or my house, and I'm going to park my car so that the police can't find me until tomorrow.
If you had an accident, you're always going to be hyper a bit. But if you're under the influence of drugs have a tendency to amplify one's feelings, one's emotions, and so you are going to be freaked out more than if you were not under the influence of drugs and or alcohol. Bottom line is, don't drink and drive. Bottom line also is that 245 deserves our support. SB 245, let your legislator know that it's got to be passed, period, end of story. I don't want to hear any more. Heather Harris, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I appreciate it.
Alan, thank you.